welcome back for another episode of the CBSI Hot 10 show. Make sure you go over to comicbookinvest.com and check out the article where I might put a few extra tidbits and details that I don't cover here on the show tonight. And while you're at it, check out all the other shows we do here have on the channel. Make sure you tell me what you think in the comments down below and that you like, you subscribe, you hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. And if you want to see this week's list, just hang out for a few seconds after this short break and I will be right back.
Notable sales.
Okay, so first up, we have a new all-time high sale of this particular Todd McFarlane Hulk cover. I'm always a fan of this cover with him jumping across in front of the moon. It's striking. It's McFarlane. It's doing the Hulk, the gray Hulk, a Hulk we hadn't seen in some time and still haven't seen in some time. With that, this is Hulk 344. This is a newsstand edition, which does garner a bit of a premium over the regulars, so keep that in mind as well. But this Hulk 344 in newsstands, new all-time high sale was for $1,800. That's right, $1,800. There is no comp one-for-one comparison I could make because this is the only 9.8 sale that I could find out there, apart from a 9.8 signature series that sold for $917 a year ago. So a year ago, an SS sold for half the price of this one. So this, by far and away, blew out that all-time high sale. So this is the new high water mark for Incredible Hulk 344 in a 9.8. So impressive stuff. And like I said, it's a pretty fun book. But with that in mind, I do have another interesting sale for you. For all of you DC Universe collectors like my buddy Bruce, yes, we had another big sale of Flash 100 with that DC Universe logo down below. This is Flash 100. There are a couple different versions of this cover, let alone the DC Universe version. There's a foil one, and then we have this, whatever. But this is the DCU one, and as those DCU collectors will show you, they are willing to pay quite a bit of money. I do know who made this purchase, but they bought this for $1,100 raw. $1,100 for this DC Universe variant, which is an astounding price. But when you look at it, last month, it sold for $1,125. So this is not the all-time high sale for this book. And even last year, a 9.6 of this particular book sold for $2,100. So this is one of the most expensive, more expensive, I should say, DCU variants that I'm aware of. Granted, I am by no means an expert, and there are a lot of these variants, and it seems like every couple of years a new one sneaks out of nowhere that no one knew about before that. But with all that said, however you look at it, this is a pricey book, and these are some impressive sales. But this week, $1,100 raw on a best offer of a $1,600 ask. So who knows where the next one will go to. But with that said, before we get into the Hot 10, I want to remind any of you out there that need supplies, use my code RENA10 to save yourself 10% off your entire order over at BCW. You get your bags, your boards, your long boxes, your short boxes, your CGC boxes, top loaders for your cards, pages for your cards, basically anything to keep your comics or collectibles safe. You can find something over at BCW, and if you're going to make an order to get supplies, you might as well save some money while you do it. Use my code RENA10 for 10% off your whole order. You help out the channel, you get yourself a discount, you really got nothing to lose there. So with that all said, you want to get to the list, don't worry, we're going to start it off right now.
Number 10.
Here at number 10, we have a familiar book, and the only familiar book, I think, on the list from recent weeks, at least. So the only repeat from last week, we do have West Coast Avengers number 35, hanging on to the list here at the bottom with another handful of sales. And that's why this is still here. It has dropped. 2 weeks ago, it was number 1. Last week, it was like number 3. It's still selling very well and selling more than a lot of books here on the list with over 50 sales. But the price is still kind of in that same range as where it's been, about $30 on average. Higher ones and lower ones there with a high of 60. Cheaper copies to be had as well, but condition is what you're paying for. Point being, this FOMO book is slowing down, but it's still outpacing a lot of other books, which is still why I felt it deserved a mention here at the bottom of the list. Because, as you'll see, we have some interesting books this week, but volumes are kind of slowing down as the summer is winding down. It's not new. This happens every year. This is what happens every year as the year begins to wind down and we start rolling into the fall and we start getting into those fall cons. And then things might pick up a little bit again there. But with that all said, at number 10, we have that West Coast Avengers FOMO book because Robert Downey Jr. shared a picture of this cover. And really, that's the only thing we have to go on. We don't have anything else. Further speculation. We can keep throwing those other ideas out there. But realistically, that's what triggered this book. And that's what's keeping this book selling is we've got nothing to base off any follow-up information so far, except for that post from a couple of weeks ago. So with that all said, this is still our number 10 book, which will take us to our next spot on the list at number 9.
Number 9.
All right, so this dropped last week, and this book has climbed up out of the outside looking in to the bottom of the list. This is Mark Spears' Monsters, number 3, the second print, 1 in 25 incentive variant. That's right, it's a mouthful. Mark Spears' Monsters, number 3, second print, 1 in 20 incentive variant. Yes. Pretty cool cover here with this crocodile man. It's a striking cover. I love the distressed look there of it like an old pulp. I dig that too. But the reason why it's climbed from the outside looking in, where we had like a little over half a dozen sales last week, is that this week we do have a dozen sold, which is a 50% jump from what we had last week, with averages at about $60 for this 1 in 20, highs 70. So the average and the high aren't too far apart. So consistently selling $50 to $70 all week, basically, concluding last week as well. But again, more sales than last week. So as volume increases, prices have stabilized. That's not bad for a 1 in 20 incentive to go triple ratio. That's not something we usually see. And even for some of these later print incentive books, this has kind of stood out from the pack, which is why it's grabbed this spot here at number 9. And with that, we'll keep it rolling and check out what we got next at number 8.
Number 8.
So a week or so ago, James Gunn posted a reading suggestion list for a lot of people, and there were a lot of interesting DC books on that list, causing people to speculate on things that might be coming in James Gunn's next wave of announcements of movies, etc., projects coming to the DCU. That said, we've already seen The Watchmen adapted, and we've seen it adapted again. Live action and then animated. But he did post about Watchmen, which is a series everyone should read anyway, so we shouldn't need James Gunn to tell us so. Watchmen should be read by all. But Watchmen number 1, thanks to that little post, has seen a bump in not only volume, but price, as you can see here, with about 20 sold, 28% increase from last week, averaging $30, which is a 26% jump from where the average was last week for raw copies. There are graded copies as well. And even whole sets of the entire run, 1 through 12, have also seen a significant jump. As last week we had a couple of sets sell for, I think, for 110 to 120 thereabouts. Now sets go anywhere from like 140 to 250 in decent grade. Yeah, there's some cheap copies out there, but they say they're like mid-grade copies. And yeah, even those sell for $75 to $100. But sets going for 140 to 250, which is a 50% jump from sets of last week. Across the board, volumes and prices are up on Watchmen thanks to that little social media post, because these days, social media is all we need to see books start to move again. And right or wrong, the market is following that. But like I said, it doesn't matter. We should all be reading this anyway. This is classic stuff. With that said, that is our number 8 book, which takes us to lucky number 7.
Number 7.
I decided to look at how this book was doing because of the recent introduction of the new little Shang-Chi Master of Kung Fu in the Ultimate Universe. So last issue's Ultimates had the little, like a younger version of the character, but it's the new Ultimate version of the character. And I said, you know what? I wonder how this book is doing, considering the sequel movie has been delayed because the director's working on Spidey, but we'll get it eventually. But with that, Special Edition Marvel. Special Edition Marvel number 15, Jim Starlin cover, first appearance of Shang-Chi, the Master of Kung Fu. Where has this book been? Yes, it's had quite a ride. It took a ride all the way up to the stars when the movie was about to come out, and has dropped since then and gone up here and there just as it's rebounded and fallen, ebbs and flows. But currently, we're seeing a little bit of a punch again, thanks to, I think, I'm attributing it to the new appearance of the new one this past week, because Out of nowhere, over a dozen sold this week, which is a jump of 333% from last week. So that's a lot of volume for a classic book like this. While prices aren't moving too much, they're about where they've been, with averages at about 156 bucks. The high raw being $120 for only a fine copy, from what I could tell. I looked at it, a lot of spine ticks on that cover, so I'd list that at about a fine. Sold for 120 bucks. This is a book that sells in all grades and is graded in all grades and sells even graded in those lower grades. That's why the overall average is 156, but the high raw was 120 because that's how things work. The highest sale of all was a CGC 90 for $390 this past week. With that all said, it's the volume that really stood out for me for this book. Because again, I don't know why we would see a jump in this book outside of, like I said, the new appearance of the new version of the character. And with that, we'll see where this one goes again. I'm a fan of the character, so I'm never going to complain to see Shang-Chi showing up here or there. I'm still eagerly anticipating that sequel movie. But with that all said, we got a bit to wait for that. But you don't need to wait for our next one here at number 6.
Number 6.
Bouncing back onto the list, we have Ultimate Spider-Man number 1. Speaking of the Ultimate Universe over at Marvel, yes, this run is about to come to an end at the end of the year. Still seems a far ways off, but it's not as far as you think, as we're already hitting like issue 20. So this is winding down. At issue 24, Hickman and Kaketo are wrapping up their epic event storyline, and we're going to see probably, I would guess, probably a new Spider-Man. I mean, that's most likely what we're building towards here, which we've already kind of gotten in this universe, but I think it'll probably be a passing of the torch type of moment there. That's my guess. I don't know for certain. I'm just reading off of the descriptions of FOCs and all that stuff of what's going to come, but their epic here 2-year storyline does have a planned ending, and it will be ending in December. But with that, issue 1 has started to see some increases in volume this past week, as 20 plus sold. I know a couple dozen sales doesn't seem like a lot compared to what we had couple years ago when this thing was all the rage and it was shooting up, up to 50 bucks here, 80 bucks there. And then it was over $100 for this book. It took a wild ride up the ladder, and it's kind of been there in the background, just hovering for a while. But like I said, this week, couple dozen sales, it's a 133% jump from the week before. And at these prices, still averaging 113 bucks with a high of 140, the price hasn't really dropped on this thing. Its volumes are up. So what's that based off of? One of the markers of that higher number is that of those couple dozen sales, 9 of them were CGC 9.8 sales. Last week, there was like one 9.8 sale. This week, we had 9. Highest being a $225 mark, but most of them right around 200 bucks. It's about 200 bucks plus for a CGC 9.8 of this particular book, but 9 sales this week, which again is uncommon, which is why it finds itself its spot here at number 6. Now, with that said, that's the bottom half of our list, but don't worry, we still have the top half coming up right now.
Number 5.
Speaking of spiders and spider rumors, we have Scarlet Spider number 1 selling well off of just a day or so's amount of news and rumors, because apparently this week Sadie Sink has been given the code name, or is it the name of the character, of Annabelle Adams, who is a character that first showed up in this Ben Reilly storyline over in Scarlet Spider. So like I said, after a day or so, this book basically has gone from cover price to where it's at now. So Scarlet Spider number 1 from 2012, Ryan Stegman cover here. We've had about 20 plus sales, 20 sold thereabouts. Again, only after a day or so of this news, kind of leaking out, or rumor kind of leaking out there. So it's brought the average up to about 10 bucks. I know, not impressive at all. But when you consider no copies sold last week, let alone earlier in the week, like this is just, again, over the last 2 or 3 days, this volume just started to hit, and copies have gone from cover to $6 to $10 to $15 to hitting highs at 25. You look at all the listings now, everything is at least $15 to $25 to start with auctions. And there are not a lot of copies listed right now, as folks are going and digging this dollar bin fodder type of book out of their boxes and throwing them out there based off of this rumored news. So will she be playing this Annabelle Adams character? I don't know. She kind of looks the part, but who knows? And who knows what size role it means or what that means for the character going forward. It's just things that move books these days. And out of nowhere, Scarlet Spider #1, which I thought was going to be an OLI book, earned itself a spot here at number 5 on what is, again, a very odd week, as you'll see from the rest of the list. And with that said, here is the rest of the list coming in next with number 4.
Number 4.
At number 4, we have Batman Dark Patterns number 2. Yes, number 2. Not number 1, number 2. The second part of that Wounded Man storyline. I think it was the first 3 issues of this Dark Patterns series, which is an interesting read. This entire series has been an interesting read, from the Wounded Man to the Scarface stuff with the whole, like building being possessed. It's Batman as a detective, which is something I've been wanting to see again for quite some time. So I'm happy to read these stories, and I'm surprised to see a cover A, regular old Batman title, sell as well as it has. Learned about this one thanks to Topher posting this, Comic Book True First. You can find him on IG. He had posted those sales and some bids on one of these books, and for the life of me, I couldn't figure out why, apart from it must just be because it's hard to find, because there are not many out there, and the ones that have started to pop up are now popping up at these higher end prices. So whatever the reason of what's driving this book to be as hard as it is to find, or to be as pricey as it is to find, if it's something beyond the rarity, you can tell me down in the comments below. But over the past week, this has basically gone from, I think it was like 1 or 2 sales last week. So it's up 550% in volume, averaging $30 now. This is averaging $30, which is a 500% jump from a cover price $5 price. And high, hitting 52 at auction. That's what started this. Auction started this, with a couple ending, one at 52, one about like 37, 40 bucks, I believe. Auctions have driven this book up, and now this is like what you're finding. You're finding copies listed for $30 to $50 now. Batman Dark Patterns number 2. Check your shops. Maybe you can find one if they still have one. Who knows? But that is our number 4 book, which leaves us with our top 3.
Number 3.
And coming in at number 3, we have Tales of the Teen Titans. That's right, Nightwing. Tales of the Teen Titans number 44. We've got Dick Grayson becoming Nightwing here, introducing us to his new version of the character, as Nightwing has been a staple for quite some time. And again, I think this was part of James Gunn's little reading list that they want us to see. I know a lot of folks are speculating that Nightwing might be Dick Grayson might be a Batman in the DCU going forward. Who knows at this point? But I can tell you that this classic George Perez Deathstroke book has been selling well this past week, which is why it's here at number 3, with over 30 sold, which is an 88% jump in volume, as average prices are still about 38, 40 bucks for raw copies, highs hitting about 60, and a CGC 9.8 sold this week for $300, which is about where it's been for a while now. I mean, little ebbs and flows there aside, it's really that jump in volume on what is an odd and slower week on the market. So here, with an 88% jump in volume for this classic Titans book, this is our number 3 spot for the week. And with that, let's check out our number 2.
Number 2.
And here at number 2, we have a new release storming towards the top of the list. And again, a surprise. Everyone loves these Daughterman variants. I mean, going all the way back to that Rogue Incentive variant from couple of years ago, which is very, very pricey and very tough to find. He's done this a number of times, but here we have Magic number 8, the 1 in 25 variant that came out this week, and it is outpacing. It's selling, well, volume-wise, much, much better than what I would have expected the J. Scott Campbell Virgin 1 in 100 to do. So with that, this thing's just standing out from the pack, as 35 plus sales on this 1 in 25 is a volume we haven't seen in some time, in just this short amount of time. Again, this only came out Wednesday. It's Friday now. So just a couple of days on the market, we're already seeing a few dozen sales, averaging 55 bucks right out of the gate, high already of $100, which is the price point of that 1 in 100 Virgin J. Scott Campbell. So I'm just surprised to see where this one's at, but who knows? Who knows how this one will hold? It just, for now, this one is standing out from all the other variants that came out this week. This is definitely a book that is selling well, and we'll see how this rolls into the next week. But with that, that is number 2, which leaves us with 1 book left. So if you're curious of what it is, let's take a look right now.
And our number 1.
And here at number 1, Silver Surfer, number 18. The final issue of the Jack Kirby Stan Lee run that ended in 1970. Now, I've dug, and I do not have a very good explanation as to why we're seeing so many copies of this book sell. I'm sorry. I tried, but I looked, and I can't tie this to anything. The Inhumans appearance inside this, the Evil Inhumans or whatever, it's a final issue. Sure, there's a tease of the Savage Silver Surfer coming. Maybe I thought that was tying into something going on in Death of the Silver Surfer right now, but not exactly. I don't know exactly what's doing it, but with over 70 sales, basically over last weekend, like all the bulk of the sales kind of happened from Friday through Monday. And then the rest of this week is it's tapered off. Like there's still been sales the rest of this week, but the huge jump in volume was last weekend, 70 plus sales, which as you can see, 1,675% jump in volume. So basically out of nothing, tons of volume, averaging $45 raw, high on $100. CGC 9.2 was the highest sale at $450 for this book. And again, I just can't nail down the exact rationale of why. I don't know if there's some shenanigans going out there, or somebody started talking up this book, or what. But a lot of volume. And you guys know me. I just did a Last to Know this week. I love Last in the series books. And this would have been one that would have fit the criteria. It's the last issue of that original Silver Surfer run, and was canceled before its time. I mean, they were teasing the storyline to continue, and it never did. So perhaps there's rumblings and rumors that they will be picking that up. But as far as I can tell, when Death of the Silver Surfer ends in a couple of months, we're getting a new Surfer. So I'm not sure. And on that sad and disappointing news, I'm going to leave you here to the boys at the Qualified, starting up next as they talk about some Buffy. Buffy is coming back as well. So we're getting a lot of returns, some nostalgia here. They're going to run down some Buffy books. They're going to run down all their other fun segments they do is every week on Fridays, the Qualified, which is starting up as soon as I'm done here. And make sure you come back for Saturday Night Special tomorrow on Saturday. It's Tales from the Dark Side on Sunday. And then come Monday, I will have a Wednesday watch list for you. And then we'll let the week roll on as it will. And with that, I'll see you all later with some more content. All right.